Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you back. And today we're going into what is a fiduciary, because that was one of the things that was last said regarding the. Well, you're going to hear some things now that kind of deal with trust or public trust. And when we say those things, we're not talking about a feeling, we're actually talking about a thing. So when we speak about fiduciary, go to U.S. Code 29, Section 1103. Basically, it's Chapter 18, Subsection 1, or excuse me, U.S. Code Title 29, Chapter 18, Subchapter 1, Subtitle B, Part 4, Section 1104. And basically gives you a full definition of a fiduciary. Because remember, again, we refer to the police officer as the fiduciary, and for the exclusive purpose providing benefits to participants and their beneficiaries, defraying reasonable expenses for administering the plan. Well, you hear people often say, "I'm the one that pay your salary." Well, that's because police officers are paid through a trust to the city. And the city gathers those funds from multiple different sources. Well, again, this is what they're speaking about, because the police officer itself is the fiduciary. What we're saying is basically the police officer has the highest standard of care for the beneficiary. If the individual breaches fiduciary duties, he or she would need to account for the ill-gotten profit if his or her beneficiaries are entitled to damage, even if they suffered no harm. This is where these stops for no reason come in. This is where, as in New York, you had the stop and frisk. While that was one of the things that Mayor Giuliani used to deter crime, New York now has a huge stop and frisk deficit because of the amount of lawsuits that are going through right now because of that legislation. Because again, they have a fiduciary duty to the public. When they violate it, even if it's not with taking a person to jail, it's as simple as stopping and saying, "No, you are detained," and "No, you can't go anywhere," because those become show of authority stops. And show of authority stops are violations of the Fourth Amendment v. Terry v. Ohio. These are things that you have to know, and these are things that will protect you in the future. Because, again, when you talk about a fiduciary duty, it's the highest standard of care at either equity or law. A fiduciary is expected to be extremely loyal to the person to whom he owes the duty, basically the principal, which is the public, such that there must be no conflict of duty between fiduciary and principal, and the fiduciary must not profit from his position as a fiduciary unless the principal consents. I'm going to stop right there on this one, but I'm going to come back, because one of the first things that I learned when I started doing this was I do not consent. Because everything that has to be done via law and in a legal manner has to be done with consent. And again, just by me saying I do not consent, now different things have to be in play. Just as whenever we're asking, you have to articulate the crime. If there is no crime, there is no purpose for it to stop. And now I have to understand what a crime is. Did I harm anybody? Did I damage anybody's property? Okay, you have somebody that has reported something regarding me. Did you witness a felony? Has this person given you great information before in order that allows you to stop and ask me anything? And because, again, now what they're trying to do is they're trying to use simple arrest and use the Identification of Criminals Act to get beyond what the legal ramifications are because of these simple words: I do not consent, or I consent. Now I'm going to go back. The nature of fiduciary obligations differ among jurisdictions. A fiduciary is someone who has undertaken to act for and on behalf of another in a particular manner in circumstances which gives rise to a relationship of trust and confidence. And that comes from Bristol and West Building Society versus Matthew. So again, this is something that is established not through an opinion, not through an idea, but an actual case of law. This is not me making up something that just sprouting an opinion. None of what you hear from me, unless I say my opinion is going to be an actual opinion. It's going to be something that is written down in some book that you can go to beyond this video. So remember this: the fiduciary, even if there is no harm, if their duty is violated or breached in any manner, there is an accountability that has to be set forth, and they have to answer for it. So until next time.
Damn it. Why? Because while the truncheon may be used in lieu of conversation, words will always retain their power. Cruelty and injustice, intolerance and oppression. And where once you had the freedom to object, to think and speak as you saw fit, you now have censors and systems of surveillance coercing your conformity and soliciting your submission.
We need cameras.
How did this happen? Who's to blame? Well, certainly there are those who are more responsible than others, and they will be held accountable. But again, truth be told, if you're looking for the guilty, you need only look into a mirror. I know why you did it. I know you were afraid. Who wouldn't be? War, terror, disease. There were a myriad of problems which conspired to corrupt your reason and rob you of your common sense. Fear got the best of you. He promised you order, he promised you peace, and all he demanded in return was your silent, obedient consent.